Stephen A., I appreciate your willingness to apologize because it shows that you will listen. And I feel like I have to tell a story here about Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani came to this country at 23 years old. He left behind his family. He left behind his culture. He left behind his country. He left behind everything he knows to go and pursue the American dream. He wanted to come here and be great. And he is the sort of person who this show and who this network and who this country should embrace. We are not the ones who should be trafficking in ignorance. We are not the ones who should be perpetuating false ideas that, unfortunately, far too many people out there believe. We should look at Shohei Ohtani as a bastion of what this country and this sports world is about. And you know what he's done? He has reached that greatness. He has achieved that. He has found it here in America, and he's done so without speaking English publicly, and he's done so speaking English to his teammates. The reality about Shohei Ohtani, Stephen A., is that he is a story that we should all be wanting to tell. And it's unfortunate that something like yesterday happened. But this gives us the opportunity to come out here today and talk about what Shohei Ohtani is doing. And what he's doing right now is something that we have not seen since Babe Ruth, something that we have not seen since Bullet Rogan and Double Duty Ratcliffe in the Negro Leagues, something I never thought that I would see again, which is someone who's starting the All-Star game today and batting first the day after putting on an electric performance in the Home Run Derby. You talked about yesterday how you on this show, addressed Shohei Ohtani only twice. Why? Look at what he's doing. That's what we should be asking ourselves. It's not that Shohei Ohtani doesn't speak English publicly and that people don't embrace him. It's that if people don't embrace him because he doesn't speak English publicly, they're the problem, not Shohei Ohtani. I'm glad that we are talking about him right now. A point you brought up yesterday, Stephen A., about marketing Ohtani. I have a 13-year-old. His two favorite players are Fernando Tatis Jr. and Shohei Ohtani. You know, Tatis does speak English, but he's from the Dominican Republic. Ohtani does not speak English publicly, but knows how to. My son doesn't care. You know what he cares about? He cares about the fact that Shohei Ohtani hits 450-foot home runs seemingly every day. And he cares about the fact that Fernando Tatis Jr. is like the coolest person that he has ever seen. That's what baseball needs. That is the language that sells itself to fans. It's not what anyone can say. Like, I ask you this in all seriousness. Stephen A., you have been in locker rooms and clubhouses for your entire professional career. Has an athlete ever said anything to you that makes you think, boy, I want to watch this game. I want to watch him play? No, we don't watch them for the words they say. We watch them for the things they do.
Okay, that's fair. Does baseball market Ohtani or anybody else to a satisfactory degree in your estimation?
No, it's been a problem for a long time now.
Stop right there.
And you're not
Stop
wrong when you say that.
You got to stop right there. Why don't they do that in your estimation?
I think that baseball has had a problem reaching through to the younger generation because for the longest time it was holding on to this notion that the way the game has been played, the people inside of the game are stuck back in the 1950s and 1960s and 1970s. And I think that that has changed slowly but surely. I think that has changed with the emergence of Fernando Tatis Jr., with the dynamism of Ronald Acuna Jr., and this year with Shohei Ohtani finally doing what he was supposed to do when he came over in 2018. This isn't a situation, I think, where the tail wags the dog. This is where the players have to lead the sport to the right place and embrace it. And if your argument here is that Shohei Ohtani is not out there publicly enough doing commercials and advocating for Major League Baseball, good. Because
that wasn't my argument. That wasn't my argument. That's where I'm going with all of this. Because see, my point is, first of all, let me be very clear. It's not an interrogation here. I'm the one that was wrong, not you. So I appreciate you being on the show, and I appreciate us having this conversation. I just don't want to be a phony like I know a lot of people have been in the past in terms of when they give apologies. I want to be real about it, and I want to put my ignorance on display to some degree because I want to make sure that this is not an issue that the Asian or the Asian American community ever has to deal with again. What I'm trying to say is this.
Stephen A., can I tell you a story? Can I tell you a story? Because I had my own moment 3 years ago with Shohei Ohtani, where I had to apologize. Back in spring training, I wrote a column after talking with scouts that said Shohei Ohtani is going to have trouble hitting in the big leagues. And it fell on its face. And a month later, I didn't just write an apology. No, I think it was like a week later. I didn't just write an apology, Stephen A. What I did was I went back and I looked at what I had done wrong. I looked at why did I write this? The people who I talked with, were they all a certain age, of a certain background, of a certain race? Did they all have the same sort of education and maybe fell to the same biases? I dissected what I did wrong. I did an autopsy on myself and how I approach things. And that's all I want anyone to ever do. And I appreciate us having this conversation is part of your autopsy. And I appreciate that because we all need to be better. And your commitment to doing so right here by talking about this, by taking responsibility, is a good thing and something that's going to make you better as a person and on this show as well.
I thank you for saying that because that's exactly where I'm going with this, which is why I want to reveal my ignorance. I want the Asian and the Asian American community. I want the Latino community and others. I want them to know where I was coming from to correct me. Because, again, I may not have known. So, Jeff, here's what I'm saying. As a black man looking at Major League Baseball, watching the populace of Major League Baseball dissipate to hovering around 6 to 8%, even though they've got reviving baseball in the inner cities, the RBI program, and other things that they've tried to do. When you look at it from that perspective, and then you look at the younger demographic, and you hear all the noise that we've been hearing about baseball, and Max and Molly and myself, along with everybody on this show, can attest to the fact that in most instances, one of the biggest reasons why we find ourselves talking about basketball, football, combat sports, as opposed to baseball, is because when we do talk about baseball, that's when the numbers dip.
And we love baseball.
And we love baseball.
Jeff, we love baseball.
I love my Yankees. Max.
It's Max's number one sport.
It's Max's number one sport, Jeff. And put Jeff up on the screen so I can see Jeff, please. What I'm saying is that when people are looking at the sport of baseball and they're wondering what was wrong, my point was it wasn't about Ohtani's greatness because we all know that he's great. And by the way, he speaks 3 different languages. And oh, by the way, the man is the closest thing to Babe Ruth that we've seen in some people's eyes. We all recognize that. But I was speaking to marketing the sport and what hiccups Major League Baseball might be entertaining in its own mind as to what works and what doesn't. And all I'm saying is that could be entirely wrong. Because from everything that I've heard, every time Ohtani shows up at a baseball park, the ballpark is packed, the house is packed. I get all of that. I'm just saying that as you look at Major League Baseball, from a promotional perspective, that's the potential hiccup that they may have looked at. And if I'm wrong about that, please educate me. I have no problem with it. Which is why I'm happy that we're having this discussion and you bring up the word autopsy, which I think is a great word in this particular instance, because there damn sure needs to be an autopsy on what I've had to say, and I have no issue with it whatsoever. I really don't.
Major League Baseball needs to do better there. There is no question about it. But it's a lot easier to do better when you have somebody like Shohei Ohtani who is displaying the skills that he is, when you have somebody like Tatis who has the swag that he does. I'm not going to sit here, Stephen A., and say that Major League Baseball has done a great job of marketing itself. The game is too slow. Honestly, the game is boring sometimes. That's just a fact. That's a reality. But they are taking steps, and I don't know if they're the right ones. It's a difficult thing to do amid this landscape where you've got the NBA, the NFL, MMA, the NHL, Euros. You've got all these things going on to differentiate your sport. But the truth is, Stephen A., the more you talk about baseball, the more people are going to watch it because they listen and they want to see it on these airwaves.